Matthew Reilly's The Four Legendary Kingdoms. This is 442 pages, the fourth book in the Jack West Jr. book series. And really, it is Indiana Jones crossed with Uncharted. Just a complete over the top scenario, completely out of line. And the main character does his best against overwhelming odds, just like totally everything's stacked against him, and it's about an Indiana Jones, right? It's ancient history, kind of a setting in that Zeus, Hercules, like classical Greek myths are played out in real life, and so this is part of a series of decreasing order of number books. The Seven Deadly Wonders in the US, published as the Seven Ancient Wonders around everywhere else in the world. That was the beginning of this series, and there was kind of like a trilogy, and then this is the midway point, and then there's another trilogy after this that ends with, the singular book, decreasing order of numbers of things. But the first trilogy was about assembling the capstone and the Great Machine. This one is about the Great Games. And then the final three are about the Omega event. So, this is the Great Games to prevent the Hydra Galaxy, which is a celestial event that's approaching our galaxy. And by winning this Great Games, this tournament, the sponsor, there's 16 combatants, and they're all, there's four sponsors, one from each of the legendary kingdoms. And the winner, the sponsor, the winning sponsor gets to receive knowledge about the Omega event, how to prevent it, and also averts the Hydra Galaxy. So, that's the goal here. The four legendary kingdoms are land, sky, sea, and underworld. I'll see if there's a map. There might be a map. Maybe not. I don't know. Either way, it's pretty much divvied up as the underworld being South Asia near India, and then the Sky Kingdom being Southeast Asia, and then land being like Middle Europe and Africa, and then sea being almost everything else. And I mean, it wasn't divvied up like the thinking is that this is like a royalty behind the scenes. It's some kind of giant global conspiracy where these groups of royals own all of the wealth and land and stuff behind the scenes, right? So, there's countless governments across all of those kingdoms, and these are kind of the power players behind them. The thinking is that they got this divine right, this divine knowledge from the past in how to save the universe or the end of the world, how to prevent the end of the world, and that's what makes them royals. They've used that to acquire power, land, wealth, all that stuff. So anyways, back to the tournament. Jack West Jr. is kidnapped against his will. I think there's at least one, maybe two other champions that are, go into this completely blind, have no idea what's going on. So he shows up. He's in a cell, and a minotaur, a man in a bull helmet, walks in with a knife trying to kill him. He's unarmed, has very little clothing, doesn't even have any boots on, no weapons, nothing. And so he has to, the first trial is the minotaur. And so he walks out, and I think like 13 other champions also won, and two minotaurs also walked out. And then Hades announces himself as king of the underworld. This is the Great Games. He's going to rule without fear or favor. And good luck to all champions. So they move on to the second phase. I can't remember all the phases, but there's like an underwater event, a racing event, a giant wall labyrinth. There's just all kinds of different challenges. And when you win, the other side note is that there's a crystal surgically implanted into the champions that connects with the golden sphere. So when they win the challenge, besides the first one, they raise the golden sphere, and that they're the winner, and then they get a reward. So at the end, in order to avert the Hydra Galaxy, they lay all the spheres at the top of the temple, and good stuff happens. Royalty get promoted, marriages are announced, all kinds of good stuff. So that's the situation. Jack also has his companions. He has, I don't remember what they call them, hostages, for lack of a better word. There's a train, and each champion has a support team of, five or six others that when the champion gets eliminated, the hostages are also eliminated. So it's almost kind of like there's a double whammy, and then also in addition to the crystal, there's also some kind of explosive surgically implanted. So there's some real encouragement, carrot and stick going on here, right? You fight in this contest, or else you get blown up. And so, yeah, that's the situation. I really liked some of the games. The race was particularly cool. They went through the Minotaur City. The fact that the Minotaurs could compete, I really liked that. There's some crossover. One of the champions is Shane Schofield from Ice Station. He's a recon marine along with Mother and his crew. I think they're also in Area 51. I don't know. There's a couple of books, but yeah, crossover. Yeah, big fan of that. But yeah, I really started this series 15 years ago in high school. It was a recommendation to me from a rocket scientist who worked for the Navy. And just recently, the final two books got released. So I'm back at it, reading through the series. It's a lot of fun. They're fairly, this one mixes it up a lot, but the first three were pretty much the same format, right? Ancient, disaster from ancient times is coming. There's a way to avert it, but the information is lost, so they have to do a bunch of research. Of course, there's other groups trying to find out. It was followed a very specific, similar pattern. This breaks with that in the games. It's just boom, right there in the games. And then there's kind of flashbacks to kind of talk about what happened beforehand. And then the rest of his crew is like also trying to rescue him. So it's kind of like a mix up from the standard format, which I really liked. Both the standard format and the mix up here. And yeah, so the knowledge goes to the sponsor, not the champion, but the sponsor, and how to avert the Omega event, which is the next trilogy. So it's all about this royalty. Royalty was introduced, or at least hinted at, in the previous two books, but here it's front and center. Boom, land, sea, sky, underworld, and there's all different groups, subgroups within them. You've got the princes next in line. You've got people scrambling for positions and promotions and all that stuff. So yeah. Along with the games, I really like the sport team. Jack has a dog that got kidnapped. So yeah, it gets really interesting because you have warriors who have trained and prepared, and you've got Jack who's just like, he's got a t-shirt and jeans and no boots. Like, yeah, good stuff. So I really liked that the sponsors, the Royals, were whining and dining and schmoozing the entire time. So that to me was very fitting. I liked that part of it. And I really did like Hades, how he ruled without fear or favor. He actually has a son in the games, and you'd think that he'd be like, hey, I want this guy to win. But, he shows impartiality, and I think does a really good job. And yeah, like I said, there's princes from almost every kingdom competing. So I liked that the sponsors really did have a hand in it. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, go forth and do my, bidding. These are like next in line for the throne kind of people. So that was cool. Things I didn't like, I actually didn't like the Neanderthals and Minotaurs. Like, I liked the Minotaurs themselves. I just didn't like the explanation, like they've been hidden. I feel like when you have 10,000 people, I feel like that would be really hard to hide from anybody for any amount of time. But anyways, I mean, it's a work of fiction, so no big deal. But I disliked the eliminating the competition, right? You raise the sphere, you get a favor from Hades. And most of the guy that was on a roll kept eliminating other people who were, ranked close to him, expected to win. It just seemed like, they called it the Great Games. I feel like it's less of a game and more of like a slaughter at that point, but I don't know. Maybe just I'm splitting hairs, but the explosives, I didn't really like the explosives. Like, I get it. You wanted to keep them corralled and stuff, but I feel like having the captives was enough. Like, if these are the people you work with and care about and are friends with and love, If you pick the right captives, then it would make sense that you wouldn't need the explosives. But I don't know. That's just an opinion I had. And the final rounds, I felt like it was super easy to sneak stuff in. I feel like there should have been some kind of inspection, like the, sponsors, doctor could have like inspected both champions, both teams could have inspected both, and then they would have caught the ceramic or the blood test. I don't know. I just feel like there could have been a little bit more monitoring there. But yeah, I really liked this book. It was a fun one. It kept the series going. It didn't plow the same path. It kind of mixed things up and got me excited about the rest of the series. So lots of fun. The Four Legendary Kingdoms, Jack West Jr. series book 4, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this series. So remember to buy your books used or digital.